Our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, Namaste. I submit my hearty congratulations to you for your grand success in the 16th parliamentary election, and I hope your every step as a Prime Minister will try to satisfy the genuine expectations true patriots of this nation, irrespective of their language, state, caste, community, religion, etc., etc. Sir, you might have known that Sri Lanka, our neighboring nation, is almost conducting an undeclared war against the poor, innocent Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu in the Palk Strait. Every day, they are challenging not the lives and livelihoods of the Tamil fishermen, but the sovereignty and dignity of our nation. Sir, our Kachathivu Retrieval Movement is a non-political organization concerned with the safety and security of the poor, innocent Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu. We have made an enormous research on this issue of Kachathivu and came to a conclusion that retrieval of Kachathivu alone will protect the lives and livelihoods of the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu and uphold the sovereignty and dignity of our nation. Sir, speaking about the sovereignty of a nation, the theory of Constitution says that the popular sovereignty is to be secured and saved first in any democratic country. We drum that our nation, India, is the biggest democratic country in the world. But what about the condition of the popular sovereignty in India, the biggest democratic country? As far as the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu are concerned, the condition of the Indian popular sovereignty is very, very pathetic and ridiculous. Sir, I am very sorry to say that in the event of the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu being caught by the Sri Lankan Navy, the torturous acts and atrocities committed on them by the Sri Lankan Navy would not be described in words. However, with a painful heart, I have to list out few of them before you. 1. Undressing our fishermen and compelling them to cover their nakedness with our national flag. 2. Firing at and mercilessly shooting down our fishermen even after they surrendered by raising their arms in the air. 3. Forcing our fishermen to lie over ice bars. 4. Forcing our fishermen to carry ice bars on their head. 5. Compelling our fishermen to lie knee down on salt corns. 6. Forcing our fishermen to eat masala powder mixed with grease oil. 7. Forcing our fishermen to intercourse with a dead Tirukkai fish. 8. Forcing our fishermen for homosexuality within themselves, whether the fisherman or father or son or brother. 9. Spitting over the faces of our fishermen. 10. Forcing our fishermen to drink urine. 11. Castigating our fishermen as Indian bastards and coward Tamils. 12. Pushing the physically challenged fishermen into sea again and again to see and enjoy their miseries in the mid-sea. 13. Forcibly taking away the catched fishes. 14. Destroying the nets of our fishermen worth several lakhs, drowning their boats in the sea. 15. Forcibly snatching away gold rings, chains, cell phones and money owned by our fishermen. 16. Threatening our fishermen with acid bottles. 17. Hitting and stamping our fishermen with bootlegs. 18. Hitting hard our fishermen with gun end. 19. Drowning our fishermen in the sea. 20. Arresting our fishermen and detaining them illegally in Sri Lankan jails for months together, sometimes years together. Sir, torture annihilates the personality and dignity of the victims. Torture is an international crime, but here it is sure that the Sri Lankan Navy annihilates not the dignity of the Tamil fisherman, but the dignity, fame, prestige and sovereignty of our entire nation. Yet it is not known as to why the rulers and the executives of the union government do not consider the fishermen of Tamil Nadu as the Indian citizens or even human beings. Sir, estimates say, since 1983, till date, more than 500 Indian fishermen were killed by the Sri Lankan Navy. 3,000 fishermen have been permanently disabled and 1,000 others were injured. Besides, hundreds of them disappeared. Thousands and thousands of our fishermen have been arrested and illegally detained in Sri Lankan jails for months together, sometimes years together. The economic loss of our fishermen would come to crores and crores if calculated. More than 10,000 times the Sri Lankan Navy had attacked the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu. Sir, it is very sad to say that all these attacks were made by the Sri Lankan Navy against our fishermen in the historic waters around the island of Kachativu. Sir, it is very shame to mention here that not even a single time the Indian Navy went to rescue our fishermen. But it has been repeatedly announced by our rulers, executives and naval officers that it is not possible to provide security to the fishermen who transcend the borders. This propaganda of our executives is quite a Koyabal's propaganda, because the question of transcending the borders by our fishermen in the Pak Strait does not arise as per Article 6 of the 1974 Indo-Sri Lankan Agreement, which clearly says the vessels of India and Sri Lanka will enjoy in each other's waters such rights as they have traditionally enjoyed therein. In the above Article 6 of the 1974 Agreement, the sentence, "The vessels of India and Sri Lanka will enjoy in each other's waters," clearly denotes the traditional navigation rights of the fishermen of both countries, irrespective of the border line, and also the word "such rights" includes their fishing rights therein. Sir, on 23/7/1974, during the debate about the 1974 Indo-Sri Lanka Agreement in our Parliament, the then Honourable Minister for External Affairs, Shri Swaran Singh, made a statement in the floor in which he clearly says about the traditional rights, if the Honourable Member goes through the terms of the agreement, a copy of which has been placed on the table of the House, he will get the answer, because it is mentioned there that although Sri Lanka's claim to sovereignty over Kachativu has been recognized, the traditional navigation rights exercised by India and Sri Lanka in each other's waters will remain unaffected. Therefore, shooting, arresting, torturing our fishermen by the Sri Lankan Navy while our fishermen are exercising their navigational and fishing rights around Kachativu in the Pak Strait are illegal. Likewise, the adamant refusal of our rulers, executives and naval personnel to give protection to the lives and livelihoods of our fishermen from the brutal attack of the Sri Lankan Navy around Kachativu in the Pak Strait is an anti-national and unconstitutional crime for which they may even be prosecuted under suitable sections of Indian Penal Code. Sir, here a question may arise that if the terms and conditions of the 1974 Indo-Sri Lankan Agreement are very much in favor of our Tamil fishermen as per Articles 5 and 6 of the 1974 Agreement, then how the executives of both the countries, Sri Lanka and India, could restrict the Tamil fishermen from enjoying the traditional navigation and fishing rights around Kachativu in the Pak Strait? Sir, it requires more patience and endurance to find the answer to this question, and also to understand the 30 years long continuous sufferings of our Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu. Sir, the sea between India and Sri Lanka is divided into 3 sections. 1. The Bay of Bengal. 2. The Gulf of Mannar. 3. The Pak Bay, where Kachativu Island, now in dispute, is situated. The government of India and Sri Lanka have executed 2 agreements, one during the year 1974, which is pertaining to the Pak Bay, and another during the year 1976, which is pertaining to Bay of Bengal and Gulf of Mannar. Sir, Kachativu Island, now in dispute, is a Tamil soil and it is a Tamil land. Kachativu Island and the waters surrounding it belong to Tamils through several generations. More particularly, it is the Tamil fisherman community which enjoyed the island over the years. There are plenty of evidences available with the government of Tamil Nadu to prove and establish that the Kachativu Island and the surrounding fish-rich waters belonged to Tamil Nadu even during the reign of ancient Tamil Sangam kings, reign of King Sedupati of Ramanathapuram, reign of East Indian Company, during the time of direct British rule, and even after independence. The Indian Land Survey Department has mentioned Kachativu Island as measuring 285 acres and 20 cents, comprised in survey number 1250. The uninterrupted possession of Tamils over Kachativu Island for the past 1,000 years would establish that the Kachativu Island is a part of the Indian Union. It is very much within the sovereign and territorial limits of our nation. The Constitution of India does not permit, nor does it authorize, any person to cede the country's territory to any other nation. But during the year 1974, when the first agreement was made between India and Sri Lanka, Indira Gandhi ceded Kachativu to Sri Lanka. A law enacted by Parliament under Article 368 was necessary for ceding Kachativu, but no law was passed till date. Moreover, during the year 1974, while demarcating the boundary in the Pak Strait, the principle of equidistance demarcation normally followed in the international treaties was not followed. The island Kachativu is 18 km away from Rameswaram of Tamil Nadu and 22 km away from Nedundivu of Sri Lanka. If the principle of equidistance demarcation was followed, then the boundary would have fallen on the eastern side of the Kachativu Island, and the Kachativu Island would be well within the Indian boundary. But with a sole object of ceding Kachativu to Sri Lanka, the demarcation was carried on in such a way that the boundary have fallen on the western side of Kachativu Island. Sir, while demarcating the boundary in the Pak Strait during the year 1974, 1. Our constitution was violated. 2. The international principle of equidistance demarcation was neglected. Finally, Kachativu, a Tamil land and Indian territory, was betrayed to Sri Lanka for the personal affairs of the then Prime Ministers Mrs. Indira Gandhi and Mrs. Sri Mavu Bandaranayake. Sir, even though Kachativu Island was betrayed to Sri Lanka, in that 1974 agreement, the traditional pilgrimage, navigational and fishing rights of our fishermen around Kachativu have been ensured by the Articles 5 and 6 of that agreement, as we have already seen elaborately. Sir, after 2 years, that is, during the year 1976, another agreement was made between India and Sri Lanka. This time, the demarcation of boundary was done in the Bay of Bengal and Gulf of Mannar. This time, instead of the Prime Ministers, the Foreign Secretaries of the two countries, namely Keval Singh of India and W.T. Jayasinghe of Sri Lanka, signed in that agreement. In this 1976 agreement, both the countries agreed that the fishermen of both the countries will not engage in fishing each other's waters. But this condition will apply only to the Bay of Bengal and Gulf of Mannar and not to the Pak Strait where Kachativu is situated, because the demarcation and related matters were already settled in the 1974 agreement. As such, even after the 1976 agreement, our fishermen enjoyed their traditional navigation and fishing rights in the Pak Strait around Kachativu without the interference or interruptions of Sri Lankan Navy up to the year 1983. During the year 1983, the Singali terrorists and the Buddhist monks started their genocide vigorously against the Elam Tamils, particularly in Colombo, with the help of the Sri Lankan government. The month of July 1983 is therefore called as Black July. Sir, it is to be noted here that Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister of India, openly declared the Sri Lankans' brutality against Elam Tamils as genocide. In the same year 1983, the Sri Lankan Navy started to fire at our fishermen in the Pak Strait. Hence, the Indian government restricted our fishermen not to transcend the borders in the Pak Bay due to security reasons during the year 1983. It is to be noted here that it was not a license issued by India to the Sri Lankan Navy to shoot the Tamil fishermen who transcend the borders in the Pak Strait. Sir, while answering a question in the Parliament during the year 2002, former External Affairs State Minister Shri Umar Abdullah has stated, the agreement between India and Sri Lanka on the boundary in the historic waters between the two countries was signed in June 1974. The agreement states that Indian fishermen and pilgrims will enjoy access to visit Kachativu as hitherto and will not be required by Sri Lanka to obtain travel documents or visas for these purposes. Fulfillment of these traditional rights has been in abeyance since 1983 due to the security situation in the Pak Strait. The matter remains under discussion between the two countries. Sir, this had been the crystal clear stand of the Indian government when the NDA headed by Shri Vajpayee was in power during the year 2002. Sir, during the year 2008, Mr. W.T. Jayasinghe, the former Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka, who signed the 1976 agreement on behalf of Sri Lanka, has published a book by name Kachativu and Maritime Boundary of Sri Lanka, in which he has misinterpreted the 1976 agreement as follows. As per the terms of the 1976 agreement between the foreign secretaries of India and Sri Lanka, the Indian fishermen and pilgrims would not enjoy to visit Kachativu as hitherto. Sir, this idiotic misinterpretation by the Sri Lankan side is enough for the Indian side to abrogate both the 1974 and 76 agreements and retrieve Kachativu, and the international law also permits such abrogation because the 1976 agreement has not been entered into between two countries, India and Sri Lanka, but only amongst the representatives of India and Sri Lanka. On behalf of India, Keval Singh has signed the 1976 agreement in his capacity as Foreign Secretary. He can only be termed as the representative of the Indian government. In fact, Keval Singh did not have any authority to sign the agreement which will bind this nation. It is not necessary that the government of India should accept the agreement and act according to it. The government of India can accept the agreement or revoke it. It is also not necessary for the government of India to give reasons for revoking an agreement signed by its representative. This is how the international law treats the agreement signed by a representative of a nation. Sir, speaking logically about the 1974 and 1976 agreements, the 1974 agreement, in which the traditional rights of the Indian fishermen over Kachativu ensured, is signed by the Prime Ministers of India and Sri Lanka. 1976 agreement has been signed by the Foreign Secretaries of India and Sri Lanka, who had been monthly paid government servants. Whether these foreign secretaries are empowered to revoke the agreement signed by the Prime Ministers. An order of a district collector can be revoked by the Commissioner of the Board of Revenue of that state. Would an order of a district collector be revoked by a Dasildar working under him? What a ridiculous and idiotic statement is that of Jayasinghe, former Sri Lankan Foreign Secretary, that he and Keval Singh, former Indian Foreign Secretary, jointly signed an agreement during the year 1976 and revoked the traditional rights of the Tamil fishermen to visit Kachativu, which rights were already ensured by the Prime Ministers of both the countries during the year 1974. Breach of Agreement, Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties 1969. It is a well-settled principle under the international law and also under the domestic law of civilized countries that any failure to fulfill or committing breach of the terms of the agreement would create a right on the aggrieved party to repudiate the entire agreement. As per Article 60 of the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties 1969, it is also permissible to terminate the treaty where one of the contracting parties has committed breach of treaty obligations. Rebus sic stantibus principle of international law. According to this principle of international law, even if an agreement had been truly entered into between two nations and on a later period, if any change in circumstances warrants annulment of the agreement, such annulment can be done unilaterally. Historic waters and the international law of sea. The international law of sea says that the bays called historic are those over which the coastal states have traditionally exercised and maintained their sovereign ownership. The historic bays and historic waters are treated as internal waters, and the internal waters are in turn treated as the landed area of the coastal states. Therefore, the regime of law of sea cannot be extended or applied to the historic bays. That is, there is no such areas like territorial waters within the historic waters. An island or islet within the historic bay or historic waters cannot have territorial waters around it. The Pak Bay, where Kachativu Island situated, is treated as historic waters, and hence there is no territorial waters around Kachativu. Knowing all the above facts, the 1974 Indo-Sri Lankan Agreement has been drafted carefully in such a way that even though our Kachativu Island has been ceded to Sri Lanka, in that agreement, the traditional pilgrimage, navigation, fishing rights of our fishermen over Kachativu and all over the historic waters of Pak Bay have been protected properly while the Articles 5 and 6 of the 1974 agreement. Therefore, the idiotic, misinterpreted statement of the Sri Lankan former Foreign Secretary that as per the terms of the 1976 agreement between the Foreign Secretaries of India and Sri Lanka, the Indian fishermen and pilgrims would not enjoy to visit Kachativu as hitherto is against the international law of sea. Sir, I once again wish to stress that in fact the 1976 Indo-Sri Lankan agreement mentioned by W.T. Jayasinghe is pertaining to Gulf of Mannar and Bay of Bengal, and it is not at all related to the Pak Bay where Kachativu is situated. Therefore, without any hesitation, during the year 2008 itself, the UPA government headed by Srimati Sonia Gandhi would have abrogated both the 1974 and 76 agreements and retrieve Kachativu Island. But instead of retrieving Kachativu Island, the former Foreign Affairs Ministers S.M. Krishna and Salman Khurshid used to echo the voice of the Sri Lankan Foreign Secretary W.T. Jayasinghe with some added sound effects in the floor of the Indian Parliament as follows. Kachativu Island belonged to Sri Lanka. What had been given is given. The agreement is solemn. The agreement cannot be abrogated. It is not possible to provide security to the fishermen who transcend the borders. Sri Lanka is our friendly nation. The stand taken by the then UPA cabinet headed by Srimati Sonia Gandhi against our constitution, against our own citizens, against the international law, against the terms of the 1974 agreement, but in support of the Sri Lankan rulers clearly shows that they would have been under some acknowledgement of allegiance or adherence to the Sri Lankan state. Sir, I have made a complaint against Srimati Sonia Gandhi and 5 others at the Temple Police Station, Rameswaram, on 28/2/2004 to prosecute them under IPC Section 121 for their conspiracy and coherence with the Sri Lankan nation, which is conducting an undeclared war against our nation by attacking and arresting hundreds and hundreds of our own citizens, that is, the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu in Pak Bay. Sir, I will be pleased if the Home Department of the central government get a copy of my complaint made at the Rameswaram Temple Police Station on 28/2/2004 against Srimati Sonia Gandhi and 5 others and proceed further. Sir, I and my total Tamil society hope that the NDA government headed by you will not follow up the anti-national stand of the UPA government headed by Sonia Gandhi as far as the issue of Kachativu is concerned. But in opposition to our hope, it has been published widely in the newspapers and broadcasted in the visual medias on 3/7/2014 that the Ministry of External Affairs of your NDA government in its counter affidavit submitted before the Madras High Court has stated that the Tamil Nadu fishermen have no fishing rights along Kachativu. Sir, our Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Selvi J. Jayalalitha, immediately responded to it and has written a letter to you expressing her shock at the centre's stance on the Kachativu issue. Our Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Selvi J. Jayalalitha, has also requested you in that letter to instruct the officials concerned to immediately file a revised affidavit in favor of Tamil Nadu fishermen with a hope that the petition now submitted to the Madras High Court might have been prepared and approved by the earlier UPA regime without bringing the matter to the knowledge of the Prime Minister. Sir, we too hope so, and we also pray that it must be so. Sir, the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Selvi J. Jayalalitha, has already filed a public interest litigation before the Supreme Court to retrieve Kachativu Island during the year 2008. The State Assembly of Tamil Nadu on 9/6/2011 adopted a unanimous resolution calling upon the State Revenue Department to implead itself in the case already filed by the Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Selvi J. Jayalalitha, in August 2008, sought the declaration of the 1974 and 1976 agreements between India and Sri Lanka unconstitutional. The Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Selvi J. Jayalalitha, in her recent letters addressed to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, has clearly stressed that retrieving Kachativu Island alone will put an end to the plight of the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu. I therefore, after a deep analysis in this burning issue, would like to suggest on behalf of the poor, innocent Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu and also on behalf of the patriots who are anxious and interested in upholding the sovereignty, dignity, unity and integrity of our Indian nation, that the following 3 steps action plan, if implemented boldly by the Indian side, will save the lives and livelihoods of our fishermen from the barbaric attack of the Sri Lankan Navy and also uphold the sovereignty and dignity of our nation. Step 1. India may restore the traditional rights of our fishermen, that is the pilgrimage, navigational and fishing rights ensured in the 1974 agreement via Article 5 and 6 by simply issuing a suitable memo from our Foreign Affairs Ministry immediately without any more delay. This can be done within a day. Step 2. India may abrogate the 1974 and 76 agreements at its cabinet level and assume and exercise the sovereignty over Kachativu through its forces immediately, because there is no legal bar either in the Constitution of India or in the international law to retrieve Kachativu Island. This can be done within a week. Step 3. India may arrest the Sri Lankan naval personnel involved in the attacks against the Indian fishermen of Tamil Nadu and bring them to India immediately for being tried according to the Indian laws, as done in the case of the Italian mariners for shooting and killing 2 Indian fishermen of Kerala in the Arabian Sea. This can be done within a month. Sir, what needed to implement the above 3 steps action plan by the Indian side is nothing but political will. Sir, if Kachativu retrieved by the government headed by you, then it would be the most precious Gurudakshana to be dedicated to the Pidamagar Bhishmar of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Shri Vajpayee. Thanking you, sir. Namaste.